Marquis Murray is the CEO and entrepreneur of a process improvement consultancy called Cirface, and it helps companies to improve their processes using a tool that many of you know called Asana. Now, his company is all focused on systems, and that's the center of our conversation. Diving into the systems that help him manage a 15-person team, all the way over to the apps that he uses in his own personal life, including a way that he helps to take sales calls really easily. So let's dive into Marquis' apps and tools in this video. Before we begin, today's video is sponsored by Fellow. Marquis is an avid user of Fellow and he absolutely loves the app. You can check Fellow out below, but we'll talk a little bit later about how he uses Fellow and how it's upgraded his workflow every single day. Marquis also has a YouTube channel dedicated to helping people embrace Asana and really tackle the pain points that it may have for your company. So Marquis, my first question to you is, what does a typical day look like? Because it must be hectic running a business and a 15-person team. What does a routine look like for you?
I like to ease into my day, and it's easier said than done. I have two kids. We have 9-year-old twin boys. And so mornings are a bit busy, but right now we're on summer break. If it was school time, we'd be getting them off to school in the morning. When they're gone for the day, typically come back. If I've got some time before meetings, I like to sit down. I love reading. I love a good nonfiction or fiction book, I should say. Mystery thriller is my genre. And so I'll typically read a book, kind of ease in. I'm checking my emails, usually trying to catch up on what I might have missed the night before. So I use Gmail for that. But then I'm getting right into Asana. Asana is where I go for absolutely everything. So what tasks are on deck for the day? What's my team working on? What do I need to, weigh in on? What kind of things do they need me to make decisions around? And so that's typically what the morning routine will look like. I've got my coffee in hand usually, and just kind of getting a lay of the land for the day. And so in my role, really, it's primarily sales. Like as the CEO, obviously I'm leading the company in vision. I've got a team around me, so I'm working on developing them and building succession, and we're a systems consultancy, and so we've got all the systems in place so that I don't have to be in all the day-to-day, but that still means that I've got to get in the sales seat. I've got to put the smile on, and I've got to make sure that I'm attentive and doing the best I can to continue growing the business. So that's usually what the morning time looks like for me. It's definitely a lot of people to manage. We've got a head of delivery that oversees our consultants. I've got my assistant that supports me as well. And then we've got a couple project managers as well in there, as well as some marketing folks. But I try and keep the day open, to not have, too many sales calls. I need that time to work on building, growing the business. I need that time to think. I also have a YouTube channel. And so I'll hop on OBS Studio, I'll record a video. If I need to do any kind of writing or thinking or vision casting, like I usually use Claude as well to kind of just help me think and ideate on things. And so that will happen usually in the morning. And then it's around early afternoon, I'll get into the sales calls. And so we'll use Zoom or Meet depending on the prospect that we're with or the customer that I'm with. And every single call, I have Fellow, the meeting recorder, join. And so it's taking my notes. Afterward, it's transcribing everything, and it's using AI to give me a summary, a recap. And that, if I didn't have it, I would honestly be lost in the day, because it allows me to be present in all the sales conversations. So I don't really have to take any notes. Like I don't have to be off the side of the screen typing away. And then at the end of my day, I can just go back and say, hey, what happened today? What action items do I need to take away? What things do I need to do next? What emails do I need to send? Maybe write that email for me, right? And so it kind of takes care of all of that for me. But yeah, that's usually what the day looks like. I get on the calls I need to be on because I believe in taking breaks and stepping away, and mental health I'm a huge advocate of. If I got a break in the day, I'll take some lunch, or I'll go for a walk with my dog. I'll throw on Spotify, listen to a podcast, just so I can kind of reset and recharge a little bit. But that's usually what a day looks like for me.
If you're really enjoying this, it's well worth signing up to our newsletter. Marquis' interview and 75 more stacks are available through the newsletter, and you can dive into all different people's app stacks. So Marquis, tell me a little bit more about the other apps you use, including any AI ones that are in that stack too.
Yeah, Asana is our work management tool. It's my business hub as well. We're Asana partners, and so pretty much everything goes in Asana. Where some teams would use spreadsheets or use ClickUp or Monday or Jira or just communicate in Slack, we put everything in Asana. So that's where all of our client projects are. That's where we manage all of our different licensing subscriptions. That's where I do a lot of my marketing. It's all inside of Asana. HubSpot is our CRM. And so every single piece of customer data, every touch point, every piece of activity is managed and housed and documented inside of HubSpot. We also do our marketing out of there. So all of our sales emails, marketing emails come from HubSpot as well. Our sales pipeline is in there. And so I rely heavily on that tool. So managing the pipeline, I've got to call a customer overseas. I'm not ringing up my cell phone bill, right? I'll use the app. I'll use the voice over IP calling, and so I'm heavily invested inside of HubSpot. And then in my role as well, like I do a lot of outreach, and we have a couple people that support like a BDR function on the team, and so we use Apollo to search, enrich leads. We don't really use it for enrichment a whole bunch because we can push those leads back to HubSpot, and HubSpot's AI Breeze, they call it, can enrich all of the contact data, enriches the company data. So that's really helpful. And then outside of that, any customer engagements or anytime we have a process, even we want to like flesh out, I open up Miro. Love Miro, right? Love me a flow chart. I could build out inside of Miro to kind of see what the current state looks like, what the future state will look like. I love nerding out inside of Miro all day, every day. So those are a few others. I've got so many more. Well, for my fitness, I use an app called Fitbod. I've used that one for years, Fitbod. I've used that one for years. It's based on AI, so it knows what body parts you've worked since the last time you were training. It knows, how much time you need to recover from those workouts, and so it will suggest upper body, lower body. You can put in all your gym equipment, and so I've got a gym at home in my garage, and so that really helps me to track all my different workouts. Funny you say F1. I have F1 TV, and I can go in there. I've got my fantasy team set up, but I want it in the beginning of the season. I don't do it anymore now, but in the beginning of the season, I can show you every week when I was going in to make my predictions on like who was going to qualify and what place people were going to sit in. I had that all in Asana. So I had the constructors and I had all the drivers and I had their active points. So I would go in there and update it all inside of Asana, which was, it's unreal to think about. And then I'm like, why don't I just do this in the app? It's fine. I just wanted to better track it. And then if we think about the finance side of the business, like to keep everything going, we use Harvest. That's our main time tracking tool. Integrates with Asana. All of our invoices come out of Harvest as well. It connects to QuickBooks, which is what we use to manage all of our payments and our books, then route or connect, I should say, to our bank accounts and credit cards to make sure everything is reconciled. And I get good financial reporting on that end. YouTube, I got to thank YouTube because I wouldn't have a channel without that platform. And so that's an app that I use both on my phone and on the web to post long and short form content. CapCut for editing videos. And so I'll set up my little tripod on my phone and just film some content. I'll use CapCut, and then I'm usually in and out of whether it's YouTube Shorts, Instagram, or TikTok. And then when it comes to like even just AI, right? I use a mix of Claude. I use them for different reasons. So Claude is typically for any kind of creative writing. I use it to write my proposals as well. I actually used to use Fellow for that. Now I'm going to go to Fellow in a second and tell you why. But ChatGPT, I have what I've called the board. So I basically took like all of my mentors, these people from like Stephen Bartlett to Jay Shetty to, Tony Robbins, and basically like various pastors that I follow as well. And I just said, hey, like everything that they know, everything that they would prescribe, like put that all into a GPT, and I'm going to come to you with my problems. I don't want an answer. I want you to push back. I want you to be objective in your responses, and I want you to help me think through what might be going on. So I know it's kind of like cliche now that people use ChatGPT as their therapist, but like I totally do, and it works. And then like Gemini follows me around on my phone, like, hey, what's this? What's going on here? What, like, how many calories does this have? Like, I can use the live view. Is that a Gemini for things like that?
So, Fellow is a really important part to your sales meeting process. Tell me about the features that you really like about Fellow and how they've changed the way that you work.
Going back to Fellow now, like, that's probably the app that I use the most in the day. Like I said earlier, it records all my calls. And so at the end of the day, I can come back to it. And I may have had, honestly, some days like 6 or 7 sales calls. When I think back to it, yeah, it's a good problem to have. My YouTube strategy works. And so I get lots of booked calls. But honestly, sometimes I can't remember the faces and the names of the people that I spoke to that morning. So I'll go back into Fellow, I'll get a quick recap, and then it's like, what did we discuss? And then I'll ask it. You can go into the feature Ask Fellow, and it's like, write me a follow-up email. You just click a button, and it writes you a really well planned out email where it's like, hey, so-and-so, thanks for the insightful call on X. Here's what we discussed. Here are the next steps. Because that was my biggest problem, was at the end of the day, I could go back and rewatch a call, but then I'd have to be like, okay, what was I going to send them? Why was I sending it to them? And rather than having to remember all of it, I can then go into the summary. There's a feature called X-ray where I can go in and like, this is the line where you had to, send this thing, but then I can expand that in X-ray to receive context both before and after I said that. And then if I still need more information, I click on that context and it brings me to that part in the recording as well. So like without just that feature alone, I would honestly be lost because I can't remember anything these days. And so I'm serious, like that feature allows me to just be present in the call, listen. I'm usually like relaxed, sit back like this. I'm not frantically typing to make sure I remember everything. And then come performance review time with my team, or we're done a client engagement, we're ready for either a performance review or what we like to do is case studies. I can't remember absolutely everything. And if I wasn't documenting all of the decisions and changes and behaviors and crucial conversations I had with my team, I'm not going to have an effective or impactful performance review. And so I can go into Fellow and say, hey, I want you to put together a performance review of me and X associate from the past year in this kind of format. And it does my performance review for me. It's really good. And like you can see its reasoning too. So it will search and it will show you the calls it's analyzing. And some of them, it's like, oh, that's not relevant. And it tosses it out. But it gives you all that information. And then, of course, it gives you sources so you can go back and verify. That's exactly what happened. And so we use it the same way for clients where it's like, we're done a project. Give me a case study. I want you to reference all of the sales calls, onboarding calls, discovery calls, implementation calls, training calls, right? Difficult conversations with the customer, and like put it in this format. There you go. Case study, done and ready. So yeah, it's one of the tools that like, it's on my phone, it's on my computer. It joins all my Zoom calls. It's connected to my calendar. It's sending my action items to Asana so that I don't miss anything. It's updating HubSpot with that call information and the context. Like, yeah.
So I actually found this stack with Marquis really interesting, and primarily because we talked about something that many people face every single day, and that's burnout. Burnout is something that hits us all at one point in our working career, and it's important to be able to establish when that's actually helpful to address. And Marquis was definitely very forthcoming about sharing his experience.
I wasn't managing it. That's kind of the problem. And I wasn't managing it. I was just distracting myself, right? Like in between calls, I'd be like, oh, I'm drained. And I'd go on TikTok and I would scroll for that 5 to 7 minutes just to like feel like, okay, I can breathe a little bit between calls. But now it's like why I said when I get a break, I'm up, I'm outside, going for a walk with my dog, listening to Spotify, got a podcast on, right? Reading my Kindle. That's another app on my phone I use a million times a day. That's where my screen time goes these days. And so I wasn't managing it well, and I burned out as a result. At this point in time, I'm writing what is essentially my memoir about my journey to this point, all the failures and things that I did wrong and ways I didn't show up for my team, for my wife, or for my kids, and all the mistakes that I made. And so I wasn't handling it well, but now, like, I don't have a day where I'm not either going for a walk or I'm in the gym. I joined jiu-jitsu probably 5 weeks ago. I'm doing that 2 to 3 times a week. That helps, right, as well. You see the Lego behind? People tell me, oh, that must like take up so much of your time. Like I see your Ferrari. And I'm like, that's my therapy. Like that's how I unwind at the end of the day. Right here, I've got a desk with an overhead cam where I can put my phone in, right? And it records as I build my Lego, right? So I use that as a form of like therapy, just to unwind and like focus on something to clear my mind as well. So that, healthy eating, going swimming, hanging out with my kids, like those are all things that before, when I wasn't treating myself well and I was distracting myself, I wasn't making time for and I wasn't prioritizing. So there's been a huge shift there in how I allocate my time and what healthy habits I've had to say goodbye to so that I can do better for myself. I didn't do that for a long time and I burnt out as a result. Like I was saying all the right things about systems and process and how you all need to do it, and I was the best at implementing for other people, but I wasn't living all of that. And so that's a lot about what my book is about. All the things that I was saying that I wasn't doing until I just had enough. And a lot of that was belief in myself and my abilities. Every entrepreneur at some point has that imposter syndrome. But also there was the belief in myself, there was the belief in the systems I had implemented for my business, there was the belief in my team, which also comes with making sure you have the right people so that you don't have to worry about those things. But there was one point where when I was seeing a therapist more regularly, I had this thing where I'm like, I have to get back to all my customers. I have all these emails, and if I don't respond to them, they're going to leave me. And she said, who told you that? Like who told you that you have to write back right away? Who told you have to stay up until X time at night doing all this work? Like who's mad at you? Who's going to leave you? And these are all self-imposed fears. And until I started believing that they weren't true, and started just like living through my systems, like that's what made the biggest difference, is like just having that system that's not like a digital system, but more like a thinking and belief system. That's, I think, freed me.
So you can tell from the app stack here that everything is around processes and systems, the way that they work as a company with those apps that they use, as well as thinking about AI as something that removes the pressure from doing something maybe that was monotonous and mundane in the background. And Fellow has helped that happen for Marquis. So you can check out all the apps mentioned in the link in the description, and a big thanks to Fellow for sponsoring today's stack. Thank you so much for Marquis for coming on. Again, he has a YouTube channel that is well worth checking out. Link will be in the description below. Thanks very much, everyone, and if you want more stacks, check them out in the newsletter below. Thanks very much, and I'll see you for a future one, I'm sure.